Hey, what is up guys, and welcome to an in-depth review of Kingdom Come: Deliverance, an open-world, story-driven RPG centered in medieval Europe that throws you into the life of Henry, a blacksmith's boy seeking to avenge the unforeseen death of his parents. Altogether, Kingdom Come is a bit of a buggy delight, and a game that in my eyes is sort of like the medieval equivalent of a Fallout New Vegas, with the compelling story and meaningful choices to back it up, as well as a few bugs of course. So what exactly makes this one so enjoyable despite its flaws? Well, to figure that out, let's start by diving into the visuals. Texture-wise, Kingdom Come is not necessarily anything special. However, the way in which its world, and more specifically the way in which its landscape has been put together, makes this one of the most gorgeous games to date. The culmination of rich green rolling hills and flower-topped pastures not only looks phenomenal, but it also brings back some fond memories of other works that have shared a similar look in the past, such as Cyrodiil from Oblivion, or the Shire from Lord of the Rings. That said, the world of Kingdom Come isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Oftentimes it can be as grim as it is peaceful, especially while riding through the game's dark forests, rocky ravines, and war-torn towns that serve as a crude reminder that an untimely death could be looming right around the corner. No matter where you are though, it's easy to see that no expense was spared when it came to detail, whether it be horse shit decorating the road, an area of trees cut down to make camp, or a mud trail leading to a rock that slid down a hill. All the little details put together make for one of the most believable game worlds I've set foot in for a long time. The beauty of it all doesn't end there, however. There are also some really cool man-made set pieces that help bring Kingdom Come to life, such as run-down castles slowly being taken back by nature, or any of the big towns teeming with life and activity. And very similar to the landscape, the man-made structures are also incredibly believable. Towns have all been placed by proper water sources, and buildings like castles, for instance, are generally placed on high hills with moats and proper battlements surrounding them. In all honesty, one of the only issues that holds this world back is the object pop-in, and there is a ton of it. Trees, cows, people, it doesn't really matter. Almost anywhere you go will leave you seeing objects plop down right before your very eyes, as if someone was still messing around with the damn map editor. It's a bit of a shame, but when you take into account how enjoyable it is simply riding along the beaten path, with butterflies flying next to you and the draw distance turned all the way up, it's tough to get too bothered by it. But now that we know that the game world itself looks tremendous, what does that mean for its inhabitants? Well, for the most part, the main NPCs look really good. They all have distinct looks that do a great job at matching their unique personalities, and details like hair and other facial features look surprisingly realistic. Unfortunately, when it comes to the lower tier NPCs, the level of quality starts to take a bit of a hit, and not the good kind. Just like any big RPG, you tend to run into a lot of the same faces too, which I suppose is to be expected when you have a game of this size, but it can sometimes lead to those awkward moments where you have to stop and think to yourself, didn't I already kill this guy? Likewise, for some reason, it doesn't seem like a whole lot of effort was put into the various animals that inhabit the game. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be running into any dogs that look like cats, but considering how good the rest of the assets look, I thought it was a little bit odd that animal textures appeared rather flat and dated, especially when you compare their hair to that of the humans. On the other hand, there are some really neat little details Kingdom Come does with its characters to make up for some of its missteps. My favorite being the way in which battle damage is displayed on people and their armor. Rather than just changing the stats, clothing and armor will actually get ripped up, dented, and bloodied after a fight. And even taking part in something as harmless as a bit of fisticuffs can leave your character's face with a few cuts and bruises. It sounds like such a simple detail, but it's one of the many extra steps this game has taken that make it such a special experience. That's why overall, Kingdom Come is nothing short of a marvel to look at. And although I wasn't a huge fan of the very unstylized look at first, by the end of the game, I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. And with the visuals covered, let's move on to the gameplay. Let me start by saying that Kingdom Come's gameplay is by no means the most polished thing you'll lay your hands on. In fact, it's not even close. And the jankiness of the experience is only heightened by the steep learning curve that many of the game's mechanics share. Nevertheless, you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you let that stop you. Despite being a bit rough on the edges, Kingdom Come has some incredibly unique and interesting ways of doing things. And when it boils down to it, the game is a ton of fun. Take the combat system for instance. When you start off, you're most likely going to be as clueless as Henry. And rightly so. He is only a blacksmith's boy after all, and not some knight, so it only makes sense that you learn at the same pace he does. It won't be easy, but the satisfaction you'll feel after finally getting a firm grip on how combat works will be well worth it in the end. I for one started the game out getting my ass kicked by just about everyone. Honestly, it didn't matter if I had a sword and my opponent didn't. It usually went a little something like this. And be that as it may, after putting in the training, towards the end of the game I found myself taking on multiple opponents without even breaking a sweat. Not to mention, the intense 5-point combat system makes that feeling of actually learning something that much more present, as you learn how to manage distance and use combos. I'd say one of its only shortcomings arises in the larger battles. Taking on 1, 2, or even 3 guys can at least be somewhat manageable if you know what you're doing. But once you're standing toe-to-toe with large enemy forces, the whole combat system can feel a bit crowded, and even a little unpolished at times. And speaking of those big battles, although they normally took place in some rather interesting locations, I didn't find myself enjoying them as much as I would have liked. Mainly because outside of the cutscenes, the size of each skirmish was usually only ever as big as battles you might see in Skyrim. So by no means will you be seeing Mountain Blade numbers of people here. I also hate to say it, but I found myself feeling a distinct lack of fear during most of the battles, as they never seem to draw out the same sense of emotion and feeling of magnitude that you get while watching something like Battle of the Bastards from Game of Thrones. So although they were still quite fun, I actually found myself enjoying some of the smaller encounters a bit more, especially when it came to sneaking around bandit camps or committing crimes in the city. Perhaps the coolest thing about crime in Kingdom Come is how many different elements factor into it, such as time of day, the color you're wearing, and whether or not you chose to don light cloth for the job, or some big clanky suit of armor that basically screams, "Hey, look at me." Of course, there are also several ways to go about crime as well, such as picking locks or pockets, and hey, if that's not your strong suit, you can always just resort to knocking someone out, and then fish around for any keys or other valuables while they lie drooling on the floor. On top of that, in the odd case someone does see you, Kingdom Come has this very clever Paul Revere-like mechanic that requires the witness to run by each house calling for help.
Quick! Everyone! Come here! Here! Help!
Only it's not the British that are coming, it'll be the full force of the town guard. And despite the downside to being caught, it is pretty amusing watching all the candles light up through the windows as people get out of bed to see what's going on. Apart from combat and crime, Kingdom Come also features several other minigame-like activities, such as dice, learning how to read, and even alchemy. Truth be told, I always hated messing with alchemy in games like this, but the in-depth system in Kingdom Come actually makes the whole experience really engaging, as rather than throwing ingredients into some 2D menu, you instead get to do all the boiling and mixing of ingredients by hand. I will say though, they have tried to reinvent the wheel in a few places that didn't necessarily need reinventing, such as the unforgiving save system that requires you to have a certain potion on hand if you want to save, which resulted in me losing hours of progress on multiple occasions. So if you do end up getting the game on PC, I highly recommend using a mod that allows you to save whenever you want. And for those of you on console or those willing to wait, supposedly the ability to save and exit should be implemented within the next few patches. To add to the realism, Kingdom Come also requires you to eat and sleep, which I know firsthand can be a bit off-putting. You know, sometimes you just want to play a game and not have to worry about that sort of stuff. Hell, keeping yourself fed and properly rested is tough enough as it is. But believe me when I say that it's really nothing to worry about if you're at all interested in the rest of the game. Come to think of it, there's so much damn food lying around that I never once had to pay for a meal. And beds also serve as a nice way to get health back, so chances are you'll be using those without really thinking much of it already. If that's not sufficient, Kingdom Come also has several skills to help make things a little easier. Some with trade-offs and others without, and not just for eating or sleeping either, but also for the other mechanics mentioned so far, as well as other activities such as hunting or horseback riding. Plus, these aren't just your average skills that add more damage. Kingdom Come offers everything from traits that make you damn near silent in the rain, to bonuses that make women more attracted to you the more you stink. Unlike some games, skills in this one really do make a difference and shape your character. So continuing to increase traits such as speech can turn you into a silver-tongued devil whose voice is mightier than the sword.
Or there's a third possibility.
What would that be?
We put one over on that pinch penny. I'll tell him I've taken care of everything, and you and your friends don't show up here for a few days. I'll get a reward, and we can split it. And then you can come back later. It's practically free money.
I like the sound of that tune.
Oh, and speaking of smelling bad, that's just another one of the many things NPCs will take into account while interacting with you.
Christ almighty, you reek.
Again, it's a very small detail, but stuff like that is what gives this game its personality. And it's what sets it apart from the competition. Despite the much appreciated innovation, this game is not without its many faults. The bugs in Kingdom Come are something you simply cannot seem to avoid. Now, I never ran into anything game-breaking, and for the most part, things ran surprisingly well. But little annoyances, such as infinite loading screens, and allies that randomly turn on you, as if somehow you suddenly slept with their wife within the 5 seconds they've spent not talking to you, are all too real. As well as things like the horse bumping into just about everything imaginable in dense forests, or the unclimbable stairs that might as well have had Gandalf standing at the top saying, "You shall not pass." In the end, it all adds up, but like I said earlier, if you can brush aside the little issues, I truly believe this game offers a considerable amount of fun and lasting memories. So with that said, let's move on to the sound. And we'll go ahead and start with the music. Kingdom Come features a very somber and tranquil soundtrack that adjusts quite well to the different scenarios you'll find yourself in. They've done a great job at mastering the sense of those classic medieval tunes a lot of us are used to, and although the soundtrack wasn't my cup of tea, it no doubt fit the style of this game very well. So then, what about the voice acting? How does it stack up?
My lord, he's a peasant. You can't make a squire of a peasant.
Why not? Someone made a priest of a pig.
Well, to tell you the truth, the voice acting was actually fantastic. Every voice matched its face as if the two were cut from the same cloth. And overall, the voices played a huge role in giving each character their own distinguishable personalities. In fact, during one quest, you're tasked with figuring out which member of a group of monks is a criminal, and the excellent voice work lends itself perfectly. Apart from that, all the little details sounded superb. Everything from running water to the galloping of a horse sounded authentic, and even the less obvious stuff like the slight creaking of armor did a good job of hinting that maybe I shouldn't be wearing this stuff if I'm gonna stab this guy in the back. All in all, the sound design was very respectable, and even though the soundtrack wasn't really my thing, I could still appreciate what was there. So without mentioning any spoilers, that leaves us with our last category, which is the main story and the side quests. At its core, Kingdom Come Deliverance is one of those can't-miss stories for any fans of the genre. It is, however, important to know that even though this is an RPG, you are in fact role-playing specifically as Henry, and not some custom character. similar to The Witcher 3 and unlike Skyrim. And after beating it, I can confirm that the story is better off because of it. It's a gripping journey that starts off very peaceful and then gets right into the action as you follow Henry, while he seeks to get revenge for the death of his parents. And it features some genuinely unexpected twists and turns, as well as some very competent writing that makes for one of the best stories I've played in the last couple of years. And I must admit, Henry was a very likable character, and he also wasn't without some much needed character flaws. The type of flaws that arise when you're a commoner seeking the help of noble lords and ladies, or the kind that arise when you've never been taught how to fight. In the end, these initial personal weaknesses turn out to be great strengths for the story. And with regards to the main objective and side quests, I gotta hand it to them, they were all very engaging. These are the type of quests you do because they're interesting, and not because you need them to level up. Even in the side stuff, the game does a great job at finding the right moments to be funny and a bit more on the serious side. And overall, there's a huge variety of stuff to do, ranging anywhere from detective work to a borderline heist. What's also great about the quests in Kingdom Come is that you have so many options when it comes to approaching objectives. Depending on your skills, you can get yourself in some pretty crazy situations, like walking among the enemy in their own camp. Not to mention, quests are also very realistic, in the sense that people don't always get a happy ending. So if you screw up and do something like give a village full of sick people the wrong healing potion, they'll all die. It's as simple as that. The bottom line here is that Kingdom Come has some very meaningful choices and consequences to those choices. And that's part of what makes this such an enjoyable adventure. With all of that out of the way, it's time to give this game a final rating. To me, Kingdom Come is currently one of the best medieval games on the market. It turned out to be a very memorable 50+ hour experience that I think fans of the genre will really enjoy. Granted, they're willing to look past some of its shortcomings. And for that very reason, in my book, Kingdom Come earns itself a solid 8 out of 10. And with that said, that just about wraps things up for this review. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you found this review to be helpful. And as always, I will see you in the next one.